People who haven't really gotten going yet might be thinking, I can't invest in myself. I don't have any money yet. So how do you get that habit of investing when your funds are limited?
I think it has to do with prioritizing. Currently, I do 10% of every invoice that comes in and set that aside.
If you imagine when you start out standing inside a tiny circle on the ground, and when you learn something, you're expanding your horizons.
We've talked about personal growth, investing on a personal level and on a business level, and I don't think as a business owner you can really separate the two.
Learning how to deal with that and learning how to, that's a whole podcast in itself.
That is a whole podcast in itself.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time may be in your neck of the woods. This is the Emerging Artist Podcast. I'm Scott Markowitz here with Shiree Nichole, and today we're going to be talking about investing in yourself and your art because it's important to bet on yourself. Right, Shiree?
It is, and I love this topic. I think it spans on the business side, but then also on very personal level in our lives and what we do. So yeah, I was thinking about different ways, like for me, recharging on a business level to help me stay excited about that. At the beginning of the year, I had new business cards printed, new pens, new notepads, different colors, some of my artwork put on those things. And I try to choose things I already use that I think my clients would use as well. And so that's a way I invest in myself in that way too on a business level. Did you do anything new and exciting? I know you have so much going on, but anything new and exciting that you did to get you excited for the beginning of the new year?
Yeah, my business partner and I have a lot of exciting news. We're planning to open a physical studio, so that's exciting. We've been starting to put feelers out, look around town for some areas in Naples that would work good for the space, and that's very exciting. When you talk about investing in yourself, that's a big investment to provide. So, we got much more variety of services for our clients that we're going to be rolling out also. And other than that, we're looking to get some new business cards. It's important to invest in yourself, and sometimes it's a big investment. Sometimes, like business cards, you need to invest a little bit, but it's cool because in the case of business cards, for example, that can go a long way.
Oh, I think that it has to be a priority. One of the things that I like to do is listen to different podcasts from all sorts of different avenues. I love history, but things also very work related. I just listened to a recent podcast, She Thinks Big, which I think is a great podcast for setting goals, reaching your goals in business and on a personal level. I love reading books as well. I like the physical book that I can feel. So I think those things are good. Another aspect of investing, and you and I have talked about it because we both coach. For me personally, I love to constantly learn from other artists that do something completely different than I do. And maybe there's something that I can take away from that and incorporate it into my own art style. And so actually yesterday I had a wonderful Zoom meeting with this wallpaper company. They actually started out as a printer, fabrics and leather. And they've been around since the 70s. Now they do 3D wallpaper art. And so they're going to take some of my art and produce some samples and see what I think about that. I love that idea of being able to have embossed and raised. So something new and exciting to be involved with there. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Very good. Yes. So one thing I think some of the listeners, especially people who haven't really gotten going yet, might be thinking is, wait a minute, I can't invest in myself. I don't have any money yet, right? So how do you get that habit of investing in yourself started when your funds are limited? What do you think about that, Shiree?
For me personally, I, at the beginning, would save up money to attend a class, very small. Started with just doing like a watercolor class or an oil painting class at adult ed. Those weren't that expensive, but I learned so much from those. Then, especially, I will say the watercolor class taught me the most. And I used that same process. I took that class probably 26 years ago. And I use those techniques that I learned in that class to do my mural work, to do my artwork. It also has aided me in different decorative finishes. So I think it has to do with prioritizing, knowing what your goals are, prioritizing where you see that the funds that you set aside, look for avenues that give you the most benefit. With my coaching on the website, I have packages that are affordable. There's a 1 hour, 3 hour, and a 5 hour package. You can decide whatever aspect of this business you want to talk about. And so beforehand, we have email or a phone conversation, and you tell me what is important to you. Is it contracts? Is it hands-on experience that you want to learn specific finishes? Is it that you need help with going on an estimate, maybe developing relationships with designers? So all those things that you want to talk about. And it really is a small investment. And then if you do sign up with coaching, I'm also looking for artists to work with me on projects where you can have hands-on experience, you can learn the finishes, but also I pay you for that too. That's another side of the coaching that can be really beneficial to artists if they're interested in starting their own business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many things that can be done without actual cash in hand. Listening to a podcast is a great way.
Yes.
And that's why you and I love to do this together as well, because so many people don't have the financial means to hire a coach right out of the gate.
Right.
So by listening to the podcasts that we have, that we offer and other people offer, you can start accumulating some knowledge. You can invest in yourself that way by spending that time to listen, absorb, and reflect on what you hear in podcasts. You know, I love that you would save up money because it's such a smart thing to do as an emerging artist. When I first started my own business, I did not even know enough to realize that I needed help. So, you know, coaching was not on the radar at first for me. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's great. You're listening right now. You have that advantage of learning from the experience of other people who have been through this path. It's good to save a couple bucks once in a while. And, you know, what I could suggest, and tell me if you've done anything similar to this, Shiree, is every time you earn some money from an art job or any other source of income, set aside whatever you can, like maybe 5% even. At some point in my business, I started to save 30% of every job. I don't do that currently, but you know, for a period of time I did that, and it was great because I was able to reinvest some of that into the business. I was able to use a lot of that to pay taxes.
I do currently, I do 10% of every invoice that comes in and set that aside. In the past, I've done more than that. My first classes in Seattle, I actually ended up getting a loan from my parents. Yes. And I was able to pay them off pretty quickly. So that was a very good investment because as soon as I came home from that class, I had a job the next week. I had made plans in advance. I had let all my painting clients know that I was doing this class, and they had already booked appointments just to see the finishes. It can be scary to spend the money sometimes on those things, but I think it's essential. For me, I had very specifically researched specific artists and companies that I felt would set me apart, and I was interested in their technique. And so whatever price they charged was well worth it to me. Even though the wood graining and marbling with the travel and the classes was around $7,000, but it has paid for itself over and over. throughout the years. I don't ever regret having that background.
Okay, so yeah, that made me think about when do you learn something new and invest in some training? Because in exponential growth opportunity, if you imagine when you start out and don't know anything, you're standing inside a tiny circle on the ground, right? And when you learn something, that circle expands a little bit. You're expanding your horizons. And now if you think about the circumference of that circle surrounding you as your possibilities, every new thing that you learn, as the radius of that circle expands, it makes a tremendous amount of new circumference, right? So as your knowledge radiates outward, the sum total of your possibility exponentially grows.
Yeah.
And so, so like even a small investment, as you make a habit of it, really begins to add up. And I loved how you talked about learning one new technique really gave you an edge over other people in the marketplace near you. And that's true, because the more things that you know, now you have more opportunity to combine ideas and techniques.
Right.
And the more possibilities, they become more opportunities for you to address like your client's desires, or if they describe something to you and you can figure out quickly, oh yeah, I can do that for them. And maybe even something that they like better can be created. That makes you so much more valuable compared to someone who might say, oh yeah, maybe I could do that, or I've never done that before, but maybe I could give you a sample, right? But if somebody presents to them with the confidence of, oh yeah, I could do that, and maybe you would like something else that I can do, that makes you the obvious winner in that bidding war, most likely, right? Because yeah, it's not always about the money you're charging. It's usually about like how confident are they that you can deliver what they want.
Right. Some of that I think I will have to give my dad credit for, is that he had 4 daughters and no boys. We were always given the thought process that we could do anything. It was just a matter of figuring out how to do it. So I've always had a lot of confidence that I could do anything I wanted. It just was if I wanted to do it or not. Throughout the years when I've been asked if I could do something, I never say, that's beyond me. Let me work on some sample boards and I'll get back to you. That's kind of how wood graining turned out for me too. I had taken the classes, but I hadn't actually done any wood graining physically on a job. A designer came in. We had been doing other faux painting in this large home, and she's like, oh, just like, to see all the trim in this dining room wood grained. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. Did some samples and she chose it, and thus that began, the wood graining, and I've done a lot of wood graining ever since.
Yeah, it goes a long way. That confidence and being able to present with authentic, true confidence that you could do something, it's a very powerful selling tool.
I think because, too, I had made that decision to invest in the wood graining, and one of the top artists at the time, and still is, Pierre Finkelstein, that teaches, I had that basis, and I knew what I had learned. I bought all his books at the time as well, so I could always have reference. I went back and referenced those before I started the wood graining, so I had that basis also to give me confidence.
Yes, what I'm putting together from what we've said so far is that investing in yourself, it's not really like a luxury that some people might think at the beginning when they're first starting. Like, oh, I'm paying somebody to help me is a luxury that I can't afford. But in reality, it's really a shortcut to get you to where you want to be faster. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's truly an investment that you should 100% expect provides a return.
And I agree with you. I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's a necessity if you want to continue to grow in your business, but also on a personal level as an individual. Kind of shifting gears a little bit, I think about when investing in ourselves personally separate from the business is maybe something as an artist we're not that great about. I know my brain is constantly thinking about stuff related to the business, and I have a hard time shutting that off. And I know that's not healthy, and I need to have downtime where I just go to the beach and sit and read some book that has nothing to do with setting goals or work, that I can take a mental and emotional break from that. Getting a massage. And lately I don't even want, don't work out any of the stuff on my body that needs it. I just want a nice, soft Swedish massage that just is a stress reliever. I think for me, it definitely is a process. I'm not there yet, but I'm learning to take better care of myself too.
That's such a good thing that you brought up right there, Shiree. As an emerging artist, business owner, you think about investing in the sales strategies and the marketing strategies and all the business related things. Would you say it's more important to invest in your own mindset and personal development?
I think so. Yeah. Making that a priority takes more effort on my part. I'm getting better as I'm getting older and slowing down and not working at a crazy pace anymore, which has taken me a long time to learn. Yeah, I'm learning to say no to some things, schedule things out farther to make sure you have that time.
Yeah, and I have experienced this at several different points in my life where I would recognize internally that I needed to work on myself. I would try to fool myself into thinking, oh, I need to spend more time learning about my craft or my business, trying to put off what needed to be addressed. I don't know. Have you experienced the same thing as an artist? Like there's,
right.
To expand our skills, there is that temptation to put off your own personal development, to try to pour into more technique, more skills, or more business skills, right?
I think I agree with you on that. And I think that sometimes with the business side of it, it's maybe easier to focus on it. You know what needs to be done. It's just kind of the process and steps of doing everything. But when it comes to your own personal self and working on maybe qualities that you want to possess, that maybe takes more time and more energy, more emotional, mental strength and effort. And that might make us feel like, oh, okay, maybe I can do that later. I'm not up for that today. I'll deal with it. I'll address that later. I'll spend some time on that later. I'll listen to some podcasts or read a book about that later, but not right now because it's easier to just go to work.
And it's also less painful because there's some emotional pain from addressing mindset issues, right? There might be some attributes you want to possess. In my case, there might be some attributes that you want to get rid of.
True. Yes. Things that we want to change. And change, even when you want to change, is not easy.
No, because looking inside of yourself could be something a little alarming, a little painful. There might be some regret involved or some emotions that just don't feel good. At least for me, it always feels good to learn something new from a trade standpoint, but it doesn't always feel good to learn something about yourself.
Especially when it's something ugly that comes up and you want to change.
But it is very important because I have certainly found that the more I grow personally, the more I'm better prepared and the more my business can respond in the proper way to situations. It's been... Well, I've put a lot of time and money over the last 20 years or so into doing personal development and mindset work. And I think that's probably the single most important reason why. My business has been And I think that's probably the single most important reason why my business has been successful. That's not always an easy thing to explain to people, because they look at my business in particular and they're like, well, your business is successful because your marketing works. The service works that you provide. And I don't see it that way at all. I see a lot of successful marketing companies where marketing doesn't work at all. Where they do a lot of stuff for their clients and there's no accountability. There's no proof that their marketing is even doing anything. And in fact, I would argue that their marketing is not doing anything. It's not helping at all. But I think that having the proper mindset has been far more a contributing factor, right? Because those other companies, they have no problem selling their services. And my company, rooted in professionalism and being able to deliver what we promise, we have struggled in the past to sell our services. So I know that's not the determining factor, right? I think mindset is the key.
Because it's a reflection of who you are as a person. How long have you lived here?
6 years.
6 years, which, that's long and short at the same time. Everybody that I know that knows you speaks very highly of you. I know that is because of the qualities that you possess. And I know you also do life coaching. And so is that where you began with your own personal development and growth, and you took those things from life coaching? Because you still, even though you're a life coach, go to see a life coach yourself.
Still, yeah. Yeah, in fact, I just recently went to a Tony Robbins event.
Oh, I love Tony Robbins.
It's so important. It's important to continue investing in yourself in that way. I look at it this way. If you're not willing to invest in yourself as a coach, how can you ask other people to invest in you?
Correct.
You need to continually improve and expand yourself. If not, if you're coaching people and you're not improving yourself, it's like a doctor who didn't go to medical school. It's not good.
Exactly.
Can you think of some hidden costs of not investing in your business and yourself?
Some hidden costs?
Okay, for example, if you're trying to figure something new out on your own that you're going to be spending time, money figuring out, and you're going to lose momentum, maybe in another direction, that especially as your business is gaining momentum, right? I think it's important to invest in education and coaching so you don't lose that momentum. Does that make sense? Can you think of any other things that you might miss out on by not investing?
It can hurt you for your own enthusiasm to be excited about your business. And if you don't show excitement, you can't expect your clientele to be excited about it either. Specifically, in what I do, the design world is constantly changing. If I didn't take the time to look at magazines, things on social media, visit furniture stores, talk with designers, look at new designs for texture, carpeting, tile, and color trends, I wouldn't benefit myself or my clientele by keeping up to date with things that are available.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And one of the biggest costs is your own, at least from my own experience. By not investing in yourself as soon as you possibly can, you're denying yourself some potential joy in your life. What I mean by that specifically is I spent decades working for other people, dreaming about having my own business. And I was scared to do it. Now, through the process of, having the worldwide pandemic happen and losing my job, that made it possible, kind of forced my hand to do something, right? I got laid off from my job because of COVID-19, but up until that point, I was too scared to pull the trigger and start my own business. It was not until I was forced to do something that I was able to muster up the courage to do it. And now, 6 years later, I realized I could have done that from the beginning, and I would have been so much happier. I really hate working for people, for other people. I really hate it. So I feel like I wasted decades of my life. Not really. I mean, not like literally wasted, but I could have been happier sooner. I could have been creating my own thing, and I'm so much more energized now. I'm so much happier now. I'm so much more involved with the clients that I serve, than I was when I was working for somebody else, and I don't regret that. There's no regrets involved. So don't be sad for me, but I think it makes me a more powerful coach in that sense. I know both sides of this equation. I know what it's like to be an employee and how to try to maximize your happiness as an employee. But I also understand what it's like to break away from that. And I understand that gravitational pull. It has to keep you from starting your own business. So from that standpoint, it makes me a better coach for someone in that situation who wants to go from being an employee to being a business owner. But at the same time, I recognize that if I had invested in myself a little bit sooner and learned about business management earlier, I could have done that. I could have been my own boss sooner. But again, no regrets, because I feel like without that 20 years of being an employee, I don't think I'd be nearly as good of a coach.
I think, yeah, and all your background history, having both sides of being an employee and owning your own, you really do provide a lot of information that would be very helpful for those wanting to have their own business, because it's scary. And people worry about failure, criticism from family and friends, maybe not getting much support to go out on your own, depending on your background with your family. I grew up in my family where most everybody owns their own businesses of some sort. I've been an employee before, but we're very much driven towards owning our own businesses. But I also know others that our families where they've always worked for other people, ended up with a retirement plan, and it was easier along that line. And so maybe a background like that, it might be harder for the concept of business ownership.
Right.
Could be scary. So that's where that's where a good life coach comes in.
Absolutely. So is there anything else that you think people should consider when they're talking about starting their own art-based business, or they want to expand their abilities as an artist? What are we missing so far?
I think we've talked about personal growth, investing on a personal level and on a business level. And I don't think as a business owner, you can really separate the two. They flow into each other.
Yeah.
Do you think that really first needs to come the personal investment, and the secondary should be the business?
I think so. I think it's important to get your own mind as straight as you can and feel as comfortable with yourself as you can before you start trying to serve other people. Because that's, at least for me, in my experience, what the business has always been about is trying to do the best for other people in my community that I can, using the skill sets that I have. When you're able to better serve yourself and make better decisions for yourself, it becomes far easier to do it for other people, or do it with other people. And it makes it much more comfortable to talk about with other people how you can help them. Because if you can't help yourself, if you know deep down in your bones that you're not serving yourself very well, it's hard to talk to other people about serving them.
Oh, exactly. And I know in the past we've talked a little bit about, maybe not on a podcast, but we've talked about being an empath. Do you think most artists are empaths?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I do. I think that most people have a lot of empathic potential. I think a lot of people I think everybody starts out very empathic. But I think that artists are just more in tune with it than others, especially as adults. I think most children you find are very empathic. They're very tuned in to other people's emotions until they're given a reason not to. Unfortunately, that's like usually, some adult telling them that they're, acting inappropriately or whatever. But it unfortunately gets diluted as we grow up. But artists, they stay tapped into that.
Yeah, because we tend to be maybe more emotional. We maybe feel a little bit deeper. In some ways, that quality can be a danger. I notice in myself as I get older that I tend to attract needy people because I want to help. I love helping other people, and I dive in 100%, totally invested. And sometimes it's been to my own detriment on emotional and sometimes physical level as well. And so it's good to help others, but just to be a little bit more cautious and careful who I allow in and who I agree to help.
Yes, and that's such a classic artist problem, right? You want to help everybody.
Oh, yes, that too.
Classic artist, yes. Having the tools and the awareness of what's happening in those situations definitely is something that I'm still working on.
I'm right there with you.
And it's because, like you said, I feel so deeply, I can pick up on the energy and the feelings that other people are emanating. So when they're troubled or feel pain, I really have this natural desire to help them because it will alleviate the feelings that I have. The anxiety that I pick up from them, it bothers me, right? As an empath, like you experience that, and learning how to deal with that and learning how to, that's a whole podcast in itself.
That is a whole podcast in itself. But yeah, I feel like the last several years, just being more aware and learning from each experience and taking something away from each experience, working hard to trying to find a balance.
Exactly. So stay tuned for future episodes of the Emerging Artist Podcast when we'll talk about self-boundaries and people-pleasing. I have so many stories about that. I'm going to have to go home and cry.
Yes.
All right, fellow artists, that's enough about investing in yourself. I didn't want to scare you, but it's important to do it, and it's a shortcut to your advancement. So, Shiree, how do people get in touch with you, and how do they learn more about your coaching business and your art business?
The best place to go is to my website at ShireeNichole.com, and that is ShireeNichole.com.
Don't forget the H.
Yes, please don't forget the H, and it's not pronounced Nichole.
And if you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do that is to email me at scott@reinventionstudiolab.com. I will respond to all the emails I get. And that's a promise until I can no longer keep up with them. But right now, I have every intention of responding to every single email that you guys send out. So other ways you can get in touch with me is to go to our website at reinventionstudiolab.com and poke around there. You can see what kind of offerings we have for coaching and other services. Please, of course, reach out. Let me know what you're thinking, and we'll catch you next time. So, rock on.